Hi everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt. This is our last one for now. My guests are Evan Solomon, award-winning journalist, and Rose Cousins, award-winning musician. I'm going to speak to them about how you can be great at what you do, especially if what you want to do is be an ally to the Black Lives Matter movement and the Indigenous Peoples Matter movement here in Canada. So please, stay important and true to those important, serious causes, but it is summer, so don't forget to have a little fun. Right, Scarlett? Oh, you okay?
It's killing me.
Hello and welcome to our 10th and final episode for now of the Steve Patterson Projecttt. We're going to take the summer off to reflect on what we've done, and if any of you out there happen to run a media company that isn't Fox News, Sun Media, or the National Post, let's talk. One more time, our virtual audience is with us, some for the first time this week, others we've seen almost every week of the show. Thank you so much for joining us again, and those who are smiling, remember this moment before we offend you with the monologue. We kicked things off this week with exciting news. Prince Philip celebrated his 99th birthday this week. Yeah. One more year and he'll get a letter from the Queen. And speaking of old princes we'd rather not talk about, Prince Andrew has been officially asked by the United States to come speak to them about his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew said he would love to, if not for the danger presented by international travel in the COVID-19 pandemic, and the fact there's a good chance he would be arrested for being a massive serial pedophile. And that's our story this week of two princes. Princes, there's the one who adores you. That's what I said now. That one, he probably did stuff he shouldn't have. He's a serial pedophile. 4 neo-Nazis were arrested in Britain for planning to start a race war, including the former winner of the Miss Hitler beauty pageant. Oh, God. So hard to choose. You know you have a compelling headline when the term race war is the second most interesting part of it. I personally can't believe there's such a thing as a Miss Hitler beauty pageant in 2020 and we're still reducing the value of Miss Hitlers to their appearance? Come on! Where's the little mustache, ladies? Forget it, I think I know. Over in Spain, the octogenarian bingo killer, so named because he killed his elderly bingo partner, has finally been arrested after a year-long investigation. Shame they couldn't have caught him before. Oh. That's B4. Now to some science news, because apparently we have a smart crowd. In order to reduce the potential spread of the Zika virus, genetically modified mosquitoes could be released in Florida and Texas beginning this summer, which sounds weird until you find out they have been genetically modified to carry a gun. There they are. That's a Texas, Florida mosquito if I ever saw one. Remember, the only thing that will stop a bad mosquito is a good mosquito with a gun. Oh, there's one more thing that could stop a mosquito. A SWAT team. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. A rare mushroom called witch's cauldron, because it looks like a witch's cauldron, has been discovered for only the second time in New Brunswick by a mycologist, which is a mushroom expert, named Alfredo Justo. No, that's not him. I'm sorry, everyone. That is a mushroom Alfredo. And that's why you shouldn't say monologue jokes out loud near your Alexa. That's unfortunate. Anyway, Alfredo said, quote, "It's always exciting to find a species that are not common," end quote. Well, here's my counter argument, Alfredo. No, it isn't. It's not exciting. It's not even exciting the first time, and that's okay. That's why I like this story. There's been way too much excitement lately in the news, and we're all ready to be bored by an already known mushroom. So let's see this thing. Oh, I gotta be honest. You know what? You know what? That does really look like a witch's cauldron. Yeah, it's kind of exciting, I guess. Mycologist apologies. Speaking of mystical fungus, Las Vegas reopened this past weekend, with large crowds immediately congregating in hotels and casinos. Health experts say there's a serious risk of a second wave of the COVID virus happening from this, but early video footage shows that people there are taking all the necessary precautions, like this man at the slot machines. Yeah. There he is. Something tells me the risk of death due to a pandemic respiratory virus isn't this guy's biggest problem. You know, at this point, buddy, live a little. Take off the gloves. Back here in Toronto, Police Chief Mark Saunders made the surprise announcement that he will be stepping down from his position at the end of July in the midst of mounting public pressure for the force to transform its approach to policing. Many questioned why he would do this at the exact moment when his leadership is needed the most, but it all comes back to the police motto, when the going gets tough and you can't beat it up, even though you've got your body camera turned off because others are taping you and the world is watching, quit. It sounds better in Latin. I'll give you that. And finally, the Albertan legislature is trying to pass Bill 1, or the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act, which prevents protests, trespassing, interfering with operations, or causing damage in or around essential infrastructure, which is often on unceded Indigenous land. Critics say this is anti-Indigenous, while proponents of the bill wholeheartedly agree. And that was probably a major selling point for them.
Oh.
I know it's not funny. Not all of them are. Alberta's Energy Minister, Sonia Savage, has said this is a great time to build a pipeline because coronavirus-related restrictions ban large public protests. Well, Minister named after an Indigenous slang, I'm not saying read the room here. I'm saying take a cursory look at anything right now and read the world. Yeah. Right now is only a great time to build a pipeline in the same way that America is currently great. And that is our monologue for this week. Thank you one more time to our virtual audience for not being here. I hope we can be in the same room sometime soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and it's killing me.
All right, everybody, I cannot wait to get to this week's guest. But first, I want to point out that one of this week's guests will actually be coming out for an episode later in the week. Ryan McMahon is an award-winning comedian, activist, and Indigenous speaker. He spoke to me about the Indigenous situation in Canada and how that may get momentum from Black Lives Matter. It's an important conversation that I'm glad we had, and I need you guys to watch that in its entirety coming out later this week. For now, we're going to talk to two award winners, award-winning musician Rose Cousins and award-winning journalist Evan Solomon, about, well, why they are so good and how you might be a better ally to your people during this time. Let's go to that talk now. Rose Cousins, thank you so much for doing this.
I'm very happy to be here.
You look lovely. Everything looks lovely. What kind of flowers are those over your shoulder? Do you know?
Thank you for asking, Steve. They're Alstroemeria.
Alstroemeria. I thought so. I don't know what screamed out about that. Are they like a sort of tulip, or are they their own thing?
I'd say they're like their own thing.
Okay. And is it, as a person who is named after a flower, do you find your duty bound to know what different kinds of flowers are?
No, and in fact, my name is Roseanne. So, although you know, when you're young, people are like, get you things with roses on them.
Yes. Yeah.
and that happens. But no, I actually not much of a horticulturist myself, even though I grew up on a farm. My sister's very good at flowers, but I just call everything a begonia. Besides Alstroemeria, which is one of my favorite flowers, and daisy,
Right.
I know that one, and roses, I know that one.
Let's get to your music. We're going to have you play a song for us shortly. I sure hope. But I do want to point out that I've gone down the Rose Cousins wormhole, and
Yes.
I would recommend it to anyone. This is how I would say your music. I'd say your music is haunting in a very good way. It's it's so soulful. You have a lyric, I spilled my heart, you watched it bleed. But the way you sing it, I could be like, yeah, that's right. My heart's bleeding. I can take it when you say it. So how do you do that? How do you take such deep, soulful things and make them palatable for people?
I think I really am interested in the ways that people struggle, and so I kind of like bypass the superficial layer of emotion, and I go right to the bone of it because it's what I'm interested in. I think struggling takes longer, it takes more to figure out, and so for me it's kind of just it's the well that I keep going back to. I like, strings and held notes, and I like to be sometimes only be able to listen to a song lying flat on the floor. And so that's probably within the goal set of some of the songs that I write.
Could we hear one now while I'm sitting, and then we'll see where I end up at the end of it? Would you?
Yes, but I feel like I'm not gonna sing one. Well, maybe I'm not gonna sing one of those ones
Okay.
right now because I would that kind of requires the piano. Like if I really want to jam the knife in super deep, it's piano. And
Okay.
this medium is tough to play the piano on, so I thought that I would do, for lack of a better, it's not really the lead title track for my record, but it is the song that has the title in it, which is Bravado.
Bravado.
And the song is called The Expert. Me and my bravado, we can do anything. Together, we're not scared, we are shining. She never lets me down, and she knows I can be quiet. That's when I lean on in. Bravado steps up in awkward conversations, the ones she knows I hate. She bails me out in tricky situations. She is rarely late. Ooh, I trust my bravado, we've had lots of practice. She's so great when I'm low or feeling unattractive. She holds the fort when I can't decide my status. She doesn't tell anyone. Bravado and I put on our sunglasses. We don't look around to see how green your grass is. We know emotion eventually passes. Bravado drives when I get tired. She knows the way home. She never lets me down, and she never leaves me alone. I hide passenger side when she scans through the radio. My sweet bravado.
Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Rose.
You're welcome.
It's I feel like I'm hogging it when people play music because I've watched some concerts now, and I know that sometimes hundreds of people watch these online shows, and I feel like I'm hogging it when it's played just for me. But I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Look, we're in a very difficult time right now, as of last week, and everyone's trying to figure out what they can do. What you wrote about it on Twitter was confession, attention, discipline, learning, change. I want to be a part of the struggle that is challenging racism on an everyday basis. Have you thought about one sort of action or one example of an action that you might be able to do to be part of this fight? You said you were just at a demonstration in Nova Scotia.
One of the things that's been happening to me since I've been home, because this is the longest time I've been home in the 15 years that I've been doing music full time, is that I feel a part of the community, and I'm able to participate in things, like a demonstration, and I'm certainly more tapped into what's happening in the world, and it was a powerful thing to do. I think there's always been a dangling call to action. There's always been a need for a call to action, and especially as white people, it's so easy to just kind of go back to normal and think that it's not this continuous thing. And maybe there's something about the presence of the whole world right now, the slow down and the presence and just the utter tragedy that we're seeing and experiencing, even though we can't experience it on a firsthand basis. I personally, I've actually 4 chapters into as of today, 4 chapters into a book by a fellow named Ibram X. Kendi, who's written 2 books. One of them is called How to Be an Anti-Racist, and he wrote another one called Stamped, which is kind of think of a further deeper history. But there's so many things that I just think becoming informed, paying attention, and checking in on our friends who are in those minorities. That I'm reading the instructions. I'm reading as many things as I can. People are posting so much stuff, and I just feel like there's a new presence in my life because I'm less wrapped up in the minutia of where my next thing is, that I have the space to and I want to fill it with the things that I have also been ignoring. And that's the first word that I wrote, was confession, because I also confess to just simply not knowing all the things that I should know.
Speaking about someone that's got a lot of books and he's easy to love, our fly on the wall, who's been listening to this entire thing, is recent Canadian Screen Award winner, longtime veteran broadcaster, Evan Solomon, if he's still there. Is he still there? There he is. Look at him. That's how he looks all the time. And he's got those fancy pods.
And the hair
Those
bang
are them.
area.
And he's got the fancy hair and the fancy books. And
Good.
he's been listening into this whole thing. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Well, Steve, thanks for having me. Rose Cousins, Steve, I mean, you and I know each other a bit, and I love your stuff, and I'm looking forward to some kind of debate or whatever. You're going to put me on the spot, but
totally am, yeah.
can we just defer to Rose Cousins? I mean,
Yes.
she's a national treasure. She's incredible. I love your work. I'm honored to be with, and your words were beautiful. And Rose Cousins, so great.
Oh
That song was beautiful. I love the new album. Seriously,
Thank
Rose,
you.
amazing.
This is a very cool moment for me because I'm a huge fan of both of you, and I appreciate, Steve, you making this happen. It's pretty cool for me.
Rose, your album Bravado has been described a lot of ways. One way it was described as a rallying cry for single folks, introverts, and anyone who values me time. And I thought, while I had the two of you on here together, Evan, you've been in quarantine with your wife. Has that quarantine made the marriage stronger, or are you listening to Rose's music with new ears now because you value your me time?
Oh, well, that's a good question. We're stronger for sure. And the kids, our kids are young teenagers now, so they're kind of semi-autonomous. Just say one thing about the music, Steve, because that is it's actually part of the companionship. My buddy, Peter, just sent me, I'm not exaggerating, before you had invited me with Rose, he said, you've got to listen to Rose Cousins, who did an unbelievable duet with Donovan Woods, who I also love. And I just had seen it. And the email from last week, before I knew I was doing this, he said, this is the Rose Cousins we need right now. And actually people are passing around music like food in a wartime. You know, it's like, here, you need this.
I appreciate that reminder, and I think that's one of the things about every time I get an email or a message from someone that says something like that, it is absolutely a reminder that even though not all of the ways that the music touches people is tangible, to me it is happening, and music gets up and goes and gets passed around, and you never know where it's going to end up. And that's my relationship with music too. That's actually absolutely how I have always interacted with it. I get a song, I get obsessed with it. I'm like, I need to share this with this and this. Used to make cassette tapes, pass them on. But yeah, I'm so like honored and privileged to be among the pile that's getting passed around.
Rose, I want to thank you very much for this. I'm going to speak a little more with Evan, and you're welcome to listen in as the fly on the wall if you like, or I understand your agarogaloks need some watering or something. What are they called again, those things?
Alstroemeria.
Alstroemeria, that was my second guest.
I hope Rose stays, but I just want to thank both of you for really the incredible work you do. I mean it, sincerely. I love it, and I think it's beautiful. So it's special for me to be here with you guys.
Rose, you don't have to go if you don't want to. This is my show. There's no one in my ear.
I'm happy to stay.
If you're happy to stay, I'm just going to go into the questions. I was going to ask Evan.
Do you want me to get off the screen though?
No, I don't. Are you
Okay.
kidding? You're classing it up. You and the begonias.
Yeah.
I know you're not. I know.
Begonias.
I could call it.
Begonias.
Now, listen, Evan, first of all, thank you again for doing this for me, because I know you're very busy. It's a crazy time in news right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And congratulations on the Canadian Screen Award that you just won last week. To me, you've always been the class of Canadian journalism, asking tough questions, but in a way that deserve an answer. And you always treat guests with respect. So thank you for doing what you do. And I think you're the best of the best.
Oh my God. Well, that's all I need to hear now.
True
Steve.
story.
Thank you. This collective back patting I could live with a little more.
No, I know. It's getting a little gross. Having said that, because you've spoken with so many powerful and political people in Canada, I want to ask this question first. Who of your massive Rolodex of Canadian politicians you've spoken with, either on air or otherwise, who is the funniest Canadian politician that you've met? Who had the best sense of humor of anyone?
Oh, that's a good question. The guy who really did was Scott Bryson.
Okay.
Scott Bryson is
Nova
out
Scotia.
of control funny and also totally inappropriate. So as soon as the camera went off, Scott would say something that is just outrageous. But Scott is very funny. Jack Layton was really funny.
Yeah, I've heard that.
He was really, really funny. Stephen Harper, not so.
Yeah.
Wasn't hilarious.
Let's switch gears here. Let's get a bit serious. Let's live in the now. You dedicated your whole radio show today to the protests going on over George Floyd. What was the sense on your show today of everyone calling in? And do you personally, because you don't get asked enough, you have to ask the questions. I want to ask you personally, do you feel like this could be finally maybe a tipping point on dealing with these issues that everyone has promised to deal with for years and subsequent governments have promised to deal with, and it's never been dealt with? Do you think this could be the tipping point that the people take over the fight?
I'm not a cynic on these things, Steve. I think I would call myself a skeptical optimist. I'm a skeptic because of my job. So I kind of want to see people do things as opposed to say things. But I'm an optimist because I believe in the human spirit. I think one of the things that this watching these riots is there's a lot of beautiful things are happening in this tragedy, and it's a really strange mix. A lot of acts of kindness, heroism, empathy, generosity amidst a lot of anger and racism and systemic racism. So, Steve, I hope, like everybody, that this is the breaking point. And after World War I, they used to say that's the war that end all wars, and then 20 years later they're back at war. The truth is that you don't solve these things. You dedicate yourself to solving things. And I think that's what I would look for, is not, are we going to solve systemic racism? Are we going to dedicate ourselves to talking and working to expose it? And I think what happens is we have a sustainability problem. We have an emotional eruption. My God, we got to solve it. And then the next thing happens. How often, when was the last conversation you had about the biggest gun massacre in Canada, Nova Scotia? When was the last time you thought about the people who lost their lives on that Iranian plane, those Canadians that were shot down in Tehran? And all of a sudden you realize, God, I haven't thought about it, because we flood the zone with shit and stuff, and then we forget. And so I guess my hope is, and a really profound hope is, that that there's a dedication, that we really dedicate in our small lives, our little moments, and in our bigger lives, our collective lives, to acknowledge and to make space for and to listen. And I don't know, Steve, I hope. I spent all day talking to people, and the pain is, I'm a middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
But the pain is real.
I think the age of social media, the one thing that's, again, both good and bad, it's good that this is happening, that this awakening's happening. It's bad that it took this. It's bad that it had to take a video literally showing something that's irrefutable and showing a man dying. It took that.
It's not even the first video of something
Right.
like that happening, which is the devastating part. I think, I'm curious. It's so hard because the media moves so fast, and
Yeah.
and living in the province where that massacre happened, I literally, it's like a week passed, and it's like, why is that not in the news anymore? There are still so many things that we want to know. It's kind of like, they're gonna ban the certain kind of gun, and then on to the next thing. And there are lots. There's so many on to the next. There's so many things that need attention.
Again, I think you're absolutely correct in that. I think that the general consensus here amongst us and amongst most people, I think, is we all need to educate ourselves more and read the proper materials, because those are full of the memories and the actions of people that have been trying to make this change that we're talking about. This isn't coming out of thin air. This has been a struggle that's been going on for decades and generations. So
I think the point is for everyone, but for white people, to be in that struggle alongside the people who are in it and experiencing it in a way that we won't. I think it's tuning into that and being a part of that, not assuming it's not our struggle.
thank you so much. This was fantastic. I learned
was
a lot. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys are great. Thanks, Steve. Rose, thanks. That was amazing.
Bye, guys.
and it's killing me.
Well, that's it for episode 10, and in fact, for season 1 of the Steve Patterson Projecttt. I want to thank my guests, Evan Solomon and Rose Cousins, for closing out with a bang, for everyone for watching this week in and week out with us, to our virtual audience members for joining us, and especially to my team, my writers John Steinberg, Jennifer McAuliffe, and Jeremy Woodcock, my producer, Diana Francis, without whom this show would not have happened, and my producer extraordinaire, Matt Kloppett. Matt, if he was here right now, I would reach over and touch him and hug him and feel his head. But of course he's not, because that is inappropriate for now. But when we can do it again, Matt, I'm going to hug you right in the mouth. We will see you as soon as we possibly can. We want to do this show live for you, so please keep watching socials for updates at Steve Projecttt. And until then, take care of each other, try to keep smiling, try to laugh when you can, but above all, remember, we're all humans, so let's treat each other with humanity.
I'm going downtown.
Yeah?
I'm going downtown.
One more time, hit me.
I'm going downtown. And it's killing me.
Yes, it is.